we have a podcast.
Diving deep into all things Texans, both on and off the field. Here's Sean Pendergast and Pro Football Hall of Famer, the General, John McClain. Welcome to Houtopia.
Hey everybody, welcome in. It is the Houtopia Football Podcast with a sprinkle of baseball today. Good to be with all of you as we get ready for Week 8 of the NFL season. The Texans heading to Charlotte to take on the Carolina Panthers as a 3.5-point favorite. The last time the Texans were a favorite in a road game was in late 2020 against the Chicago Bears. They lost 36-7 that day to Mitch Trubisky as a road favorite. Welcome in. I'm Sean Pendergast, one half of Payne and Pendergast Sports Radio 610. In the mornings, that's where you can find us. Joined as always by my good friend, the Hall of Famer, and our senior columnist at sportsradio610.com, John McClain. And John, I say Houtopia Football Podcast, we'll get to the football, but the baseball is what has us kicked right in the gut today. We're less than 24 hours removed from the Astros getting walloped in Game 7 of the ALCS, and it looks like this is going to be it for Dusty Baker. We'll talk about Dusty in just a second, but John, just your overall thoughts, certainly on this series, but on the season as a whole for the Astros.
Considering they got as far as they did, Sean, a seventh game of ACLS for the seventh consecutive year, I think it was pretty remarkable. All the injuries out too. They missed 70 games. Alvarez 49. Or Garcia lasted 6 games, and Lance McCullers never pitched. For them to get to where they did was amazing, but for them to blow the last 2 games to the Rangers at Minute Maid Park and be so utterly pathetic at Minute Maid Park during the season and in the playoffs is inexcusable. And it was an embarrassment. And they left so many runners in scoring position. Now, Dusty, all the talks about Dusty, and that's probably good, Athletic reporting, that he may not manage again, but they said he could manage again. So really, they're not wrong either way because he may or he may not. And what I'm interested in seeing, Sean, Dana Brown is close to completing his first year as general manager. And you know when GMs come in, they have guys they want to hire. Will he get to hire who he wants? Will Jim Crane hire who he wants? Where does Joe Espada, the respective bench coach, fit into the equation?
Yeah, those are all valid questions. John, I had to guess, I'd say Dusty's not going to be back, and I don't even know that I necessarily feel that way because of the Astros end of things. Dusty sounded like a guy who is seriously considering retirement after this game when he was talking about his 1.5-year-old granddaughter and his 2 hunting dogs who don't know who he is. And I mean, he sounded like somebody who has A, given this a lot of thought, B, taking a lot of input from people in his own family about this. And, look, barring winning a World Series again, he's never going to leave in a drop the mic fashion. So the only way he leaves, feeling like, okay, I'm leaving on top is if they win a World Series. If this is over, it's been an incredible run with Dusty Baker. It's exceeded all expectations I think the Astros had to have had when they hired him back in 2020, because they weren't hiring him with the main thing being, this is the guy who, he's going to get us back over the top from 2019. He took over because the franchise was disgraced. He took over because he had to help recalibrate a PR element along with being a manager of a baseball team in what's probably a pretty tricky situation. They were pretty comfortable with A.J. Hinch those 5 years that A.J. Hinch was here, and you're stepping into a situation. He inherited a team that won 107 games and ironically lost all 4 home games of the World Series the year before he got there. 2 ALCSs, 2 World Series, and a World Series championship is a phenomenal 4-year run for Dusty Baker.
It's a great way for him to go out. The Athletic also said he might want to stay in baseball in some capacity. I doubt that would be here. I'm sure the new manager wouldn't want Dusty hanging around looking over his shoulder. And it's an attractive job. They can not fully expect them next year to extend their dynasty and be one of the best teams in baseball for an 8th consecutive season. They got a lot of good players, got a lot of question marks. Starting, I'm hoping Martin Maldonado's gone. Let him be a coach in the system. Elevate Yainer Diaz. See if some of these other players can stay healthy. And will they ever get Lance McCullers back? When will Luis Garcia come back? How much money will Jim Crane spend? Will he bring back Hector Neris and Phil Maton? Those guys Then there's other relievers whose contracts are up. Will Eckstein, Brian Brayu to an extension. So a lot can go on. I'm guessing, and I don't know how you feel, but Crane will still be heavily involved, even though he has Dana Brown as general manager. And if Brown wants to hire somebody he don't like, I bet they don't hire him.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, Jim Crane's always been heavily involved. He was more heavily involved, obviously, this offseason because they were operating without a GM for like 2 months. But he, you know, if you go back and read the stories of the Greinke trade in 2019, the Greinke trade was Crane's idea. He went to Luno and said, "Hey, man, like we need one more arm. Have you called Arizona about Zach Greinke?" I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit what that story was, but he's always been heavily involved. I think you know what's interesting, John. You bring up the bullpen. Dana Brown is probably going to have 2 orders of business this offseason: hire a new manager and do what, comparatively speaking, is a makeover of the bullpen. You know, they brought everybody back from the bullpen last year. Hell, they brought practically everybody back that was on the team last year. They're going to run most of this team back next year. I think the thing that is, as a fan, that's concerning to me as compared to this time last year, John, you had the old guard, the Altuves and the Bregmans of the world, you know, those guys, Hughley last year. And Brantley got hurt, but you know, the older players, the older players were supplemented by a young group of players in 2022. Pena, MVP of the World Series in ALCS. Kyle Tucker, phenomenal all-star. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier pitching huge games for this team in the postseason. If you look at the guys that were the linchpins for this playoff run, pitching staff, it was Verlander, 40 years old. And then in the everyday lineup, it was Bregman, it was Altuve, obviously Jordan, who's part of that young crew. Jordan is just a freak. But I think that's the biggest thing that's concerning to me is that the group of young guys you thought would be the foundation for keeping this window open, you know, well into the end of this decade. Pena, Tucker, Framber, Javier, all underperformed. You know, Tucker was great during the regular season. Playoffs, he was terrible. The other 3 were completely inconsistent throughout the entire year. That's the big concern for me is what do the young pieces look like on this team?
Jeremy Pena was a big disappointment. He couldn't hit half as many home runs last year. His last one was July 5th. He was terrible in the playoffs at the plate. You know, he was good in the field, but they don't need him to be just good in the field. He's under a lot of pressure. I guess this is just a sophomore jinx for him. Framber was a huge disappointment after his no-hitter. And then I've never, in my wildest dreams, would have believed that Christian Javier would have stunk it up as bad as he did in the 7th game when they needed him the most. He was terrible.
He was terrible. John, I don't know. Like, is it a sophomore slump for Pena, or is this who he is and he just had a good month last year in the postseason?
We're not going to know till next season.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a probably, I mean, statistician or, you know, analytics people would probably be more inclined to say, no, this is who he is. He just had a real outlier of a month, as opposed to this is the trajectory he's eventually going to be on. I hope that's what he is. I like Pena a lot. I don't think we're going to see as many Pena commercials this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I guarantee you one thing, drop him down to 9th next season, and he will hit a whole lot better than the guy who's been hitting 9th.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's you and I would hit a lot better than the guy who's been hitting 9th. All right, so that's the Astros. So the Astros, I guess, next order of business, who's the manager of this team going to be? And when they name a new one, we'll talk about it here on the pod. John, let's get to some general news and notes here. We've got the Texans. We're looking ahead to Week 8, Panthers and Texans. We'll do a deep dive preview in the next episode, and there's really not much to talk about with the Texans from over the weekend because they were on a bye week. CJ Stroud's up in Columbus picking games on game day. Everybody else is traveling around the country, getting a few days in of R&R before they get back to the schedule here. So let's hit these general news and notes with you, John, and look at the Texans and around the NFL.
A lot was being made of the Titans trading safety Kevin Byard to Philadelphia. He didn't play very well last year, and they asked him to take a pay cut, and he did. But then he didn't play very well this year. So they trade him. They get another safety. They get 2 low draft choices, and he should be happy and maybe have his career revitalized, playing on a much better defense and a much better team with Philadelphia. But I was told that they told him they were looking to trade him. They had interest, and he said that was fine. He never was the same once they asked him to take that pay cut.
So, John, do you think, I mean, you're pretty plugged in up in Nashville. Is this the beginning of what's going to be a very active week for the Titans on the trade market, do you think? Did the Texans week 15 and 17 games just get a whole lot easier if the Titans are tearing this thing down?
I don't know how much they have that they're going to trade. They don't have offensive linemen. I don't know if they're going to do that, but he definitely wasn't playing well, and so that's why they got him a new zip code. And I think if they trade everybody's not playing well, they'd be trading half their team. But another one, Sean, Lamar Jackson finally had a great game under his new coordinator, Todd Monken. He had 357 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing. His rating was 155.8. And as against the team I said last week, I thought was the best in the NFC, the Detroit Lions. He just killed them. This is he has now 50 touchdown pass. I'm sorry. His 50th regular season win in his 68th game. 50th regular season win in his 68th game. The only quarterback who've gotten to a better number in their 68th game was Kenny Stabler. He had 62 wins in his 68th game. Patrick Mahomes had 63. Tom Brady 65. Roger Staubach 67. No, that can't be right. I botched this note. I've got right 50th regular.
Roger Staubach.
Yeah, Roger would have gone 67 and 1. 50th regular season win in his 68th game, and that is just, let me leave it this, 5th all time. And it's very impressive what he was able to do against the Lions.
You know what it is, John? I bet Roger Staubach got his 50th win in 67 games. Mahomes
That's
got his
what
50th
it is.
Win
That's
in
what
63
it is.
games. So repeat them then.
Kenny Stabler got his 50th win in 62 games. Patrick Mahomes 63. Tom Brady 65. Roger Staubach 67. And then Lamar Jackson's done it 68. Thank you for clearing that up.
No problem. No, I like that stat, though. I mean, it really goes to show you where Lamar Jackson is in the pantheon of quarterbacks, because I don't know that I know he's won an MVP award. I don't know that he gets that kind of credit. You know, John, he was looking like he might be on a different team at one point during the offseason here. I mean, the Ravens really slow played his contract situation, and now he's, I would say, probably Lamar, Tua, and Patrick Mahomes, the front runners for MVP of the league right now, I would think.
2 weeks ago, I thought it was Brock Purdy, and not so much anymore.
No. And Brock's not going to get the benefit of the doubt either, just because of his pedigree.
I was in Maryland over the weekend, so I watched their game against Detroit, and they just stomped the Lions. And I thought the Lions might go in and beat them. That's the first really impressive game the Ravens have had this year. Now they're 5-2. Okay, my next one, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have hooked up for 50 touchdown catches. Now, that's impressive. We all know they're the best twosome in the NFL. Well, they got a ways to go till they catch Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates. They had 89. And number 1, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, 90. So they got to go another 41 to become the most prolific quarterback tight end combination in the NFL. And who knows? If Taylor Swift keeps coming to the games, they may break that in the next couple of years.
Okay, a couple things. One, where are Davis Mills and Pharaoh Brown on that list?
Let me look. Wait, I'm looking. Let me go down. Let me just start at the bottom.
Oh, there they
are. Number 863.
Number 2, did you catch Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes' celebration handshake?
Oh, yeah. How could you not?
Well, so what did you think, John? Did you like it? Did you think it was corny?
Oh, I liked it. I like anything about Taylor Swift. I like her. I think she's good for the NFL. She's definitely good for Kelce because they ran the stats when she's there and when she's not there.
Yeah.
My goodness, everybody's going to try to sabotage her coming to his games, considering the difference in his statistics.
Oh, yeah. They're going to start delaying her private jets to Chiefs games. Call it a bomb scare or something like that. Yeah. Try to keep her away. She's like the anti-Yoko Ono. Kids, look up Yoko Ono, put her in the Google machine and take a look there. She ruined the Beatles, reportedly, back in the day. What else you got, John? You got any other nuggets?
Oh, yeah. Myles Garrett had 2 sacks in that crazy victory over Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. He's got 82 in 90 games, and he passed Reggie White for the most by a player before his 28th birthday, since sacks have become official in 1982, and he's not slowing down. Looks like he's the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. He's been phenomenal. He had 2 strip sacks, and he blocked a field goal. It may have been the best game of his career. No other player's done that in the Super Bowl era.
Did you see the blocked field goal, John?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was still legal to take a running leap like that.
He just
amazing.
jumped over them. Did he run? It looked like he was doing it from a standstill.
He did. You can't do. I don't think you can take a running leap, but he looked like a guy with a great vertical.
Oh my God! It was incredible. There's actually a question about that Colts-Browns game in the mailbag. I'll save it. But what else we got for notes, John? You got any more?
I got another one here. Puka Nacua. He's got 58 catches, rookie for the Rams from BYU. He has been phenomenal. He and C.J. Stroud are mentioned as the leading candidates to be NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. He has the most catches in history in a player's first 7 games. He has 752 yards in those 7 games. The only other player with that many has 2 yards more, Jamar Chase. In the Super Bowl era, they are the only players to have at least 700 yards in their first 7 games.
Okay, so a couple things there, Texans-wise. Well, first of all, a couple things. Well, first with Puka Nacua, he's still putting up these numbers even with Cooper Kupp back in the lineup, right? Like Cooper Kupp is back.
They got no running game.
Yeah, well, right. And Nakua's still putting up number 1 wide receiver number. Yeah, you're right. They don't have anybody to run the football, especially with Kyron Williams out right now. Number 2, it goes to show you the type of year that C.J. Stroud is having, that he's still a fairly prohibitive favorite to win Rookie of the Year when the competition is a guy who's on pace for damn near 2,000 yards receiving right now. Nacua. It goes to show you that CJ Stroud is garnering a lot of respect around the league, at least from odds makers. You know, who knows? Maybe they're off base on it, but CJ being favorite for Rookie of the Year is 6 games in is a pretty nice accomplishment.
He's also on ESPN a lot. He's also on NFL Network a lot because they like to throw the ball, and he's in LA, and they got great uniforms, and he makes big catches. So he's getting a lot of attention, and he got a lot this weekend when CJ Stroud was traveling the country.
Yeah. Did you see CJ on game day, John?
I did. Thought he did well.
You thought he did well? I just thought it was funny. As soon as I saw that he was the celebrity guest picker, I start thinking about who else has done it so far this season. Like last week was Oregon and Washington up in Seattle. They had Joel McHale on, the comedian, and he's painted half his body blue and half his body yellow, and he's got painted his hair, and he's on there he's making picks based on music and mascots and things like that. I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're getting that with CJ. CJ's probably still got old scouting reports sitting around. They're going to get the nerdiest analysis ever on all these games from CJ Stroud. There will be no gut feel. It'll all be based on actual analysis.
We'll be able to ask him all about it on Wednesday when he's available to the media, and I'll be writing a story about him and Bryce Young.
Ooh, what kind of story, John? Like what
about them going against, how they're always going to be entwined the rest of their career. And even though they won't be playing against each other, and they'll all play it down, it's still going to be a big deal to see if Stroud can beat Young or Young can win his first game over Stroud.
It's funny, John, if someone had told you coming into week 8 before the season, not told you, but if someone had told the football world, like, hey, the Texans and the Panthers are going to face off in week 8 in Carolina. One of them is going to be winless. The other one's going to be 3-3. I think a lot of the national people out there would have had it flipped around.
Oh, I would have too. In fact, when they started 0-2, I started looking up D'Amico and Bobby Slowick's first season with Kyle Shanahan in 2017. And didn't they start like 0-9?
Yeah, they did.
I was about to write a column about that, be patient, and then they blow out the Jaguars.
Yeah, and there goes your column, but for good
reason.
There
went, screwed it up.
Yep. All right. So that is general news and notes. We always enjoy that. Look around the league through the notebook of John McClain. All right, John, you ready? I got about 6 or 7 mailbag questions here.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do the mailbag. HOU Mailbag at gmail.com. That's where you can send us questions. HOU Mailbag at gmail.com. Let's start with this one, John. Jeff in Highland Park says, what's the story with Charlie Heck? Is he coming back? What is the story with Charlie Heck, John? Do we know anything?
Charlie walks around normal, but he was walking around normally all through training camp. And they're going to have to make a decision on him. But right now, if he comes back after all that inactivity, would he be any better than George Fant? If he came back, would they keep Titus at left guard? I'm thinking, they need to get Titus back at right tackle and then get Juice Scruggs back in and maybe let Jared Patterson play left guard. But if they don't activate him, then they're going to have to keep him on physically unable to perform all season. But when you watch him, you wonder what in the world is it that's causing him a problem, because he just looks so good.
Yeah, my understanding is they've got they're in a period now where they've got like a 5-week period now to open a 3-week practice period for him.
Right.
So sometime, I guess, around like Thanksgiving, we'll know for sure what's happening with whether Charlie's going to get back on the field. I feel bad for Charlie. I like Charlie. He's played some good snaps for this team. He started some games for this team throughout his first 3 years in the league. The injury to Titus Howard created a big opportunity at right tackle. Charlie's in a contract year. He could have put some more good film out there with this Texans offensive line, protecting CJ Stroud, quarterback who's not subjecting the offensive line to huge sack numbers. So I feel kind of bad for Charlie that this injury has kind of taken him out of the mix, because he would have been sitting on a great opportunity here to play some football and maybe go get a nice contract somewhere else to start at right tackle next year.
Yeah, because he's not going to start here barring injury.
Nope. All right, Billy and Pearland, if you guys can pick one game, I love this one. I feel like we get this every year. I feel like we got this more when it looked like the Texans would only win one game for the rest of the year. So here's the question, Billy and Pearland, if you guys can pick one game to guarantee a win the rest of the season, which one would it be?
Well, we should be picking Jacksonville. Then that would give them, and I would love to see them beat the Browns, but it's got to be the Jaguars, because that's like beating them 3 times. So I say Jacksonville.
I would be Jacksonville too, John. And I think as I was thinking about this question, when I was typing it into the rundown, I thought, man, the last couple years, I was totally making these picks based on emotion, because the standings didn't mean anything for the Texans. Like last year, it was like, I think it's either the Browns or the Cowboys, because I hate Deshaun Watson and I hate the Cowboys. Now, I mean, there's plenty of teams to hate on their schedule the rest of the way.
Okay, hold on a second. Wait. Let's take out the Jaguars. Say the question says anybody but the Jaguars.
Okay.
Who would you take?
I would take Deshaun Watson on Christmas Eve.
What about if it's PJ Walker?
Then okay, if I know for sure it's PJ Walker start, you know what? It would still be that one, because it would also affect the draft capital as well. So I
would pick Cincinnati, because I thought that's the game that I knew they were going to lose since it was on the schedule. The Bengals have been playing better. If they could be guaranteed of beating the Bengals, I'm not saying they're going to win every one of their games, but they'd be capable of winning every other game.
True.
And might even be favored in a bunch of them.
They're favored on the road this week, John. How's that feel?
That's amazing. Shows you how far they've come, but it also shows you what a huge disappointment that Carolina is. And I'll guarantee you, David Tepper, the owner, has made Frank Reich give up the play calling duties to Thomas Brown, who's never been a coordinator before this year and never called plays. So we're going to have 2 first-time coordinators and 2 first-time play callers. Frank Reich would not give it up after a start like this, after doing it his whole career.
Tepper has all the earmarkings, John, of a nightmare owner. Just very, very involved. His opinion probably matters. It's his team, so he can do whatever he wants. I was going to say his opinion matters way too much. It's his team, so he can do what he wants to. It just doesn't seem like he is all that dialed in on making great football decisions. He's very impulsive, it feels like.
Reich talked about that 2 weeks ago. I watched him, and a lot of people took from it about his involvement and how they meet all the time. Is maybe he's the one that wanted Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. Although I watched the interview, there was nothing to me that even hinted at that. It was just how involved Tepper is and how he welcomed that kind of involvement and input.
All right, next one, John. Mark S. Hey, guys, when did Kareem Jackson turn into Jack Tatum?
Oh, my goodness, that's right. He's been hitting people. Finally got suspended for 4 games in his old age. Kareem has gotten vicious.
Yeah, he has. Maybe we should get people up to speed. Maybe not everybody's totally aware of that. But Kareem Jackson, sweetheart of a guy when he was here with the Texans. I would imagine still a sweetheart of a guy, but an older player now. He is I think the perception around the league probably, John, is he's become a dirty player. He's made a lot of hits that have gotten him flagged, that have gotten him fined. He's got almost $90,000 in fines. This suspension is going to force over $500,000 in mid salary that he'll miss out on because he doesn't get paid during this suspension. So, yeah, what is it, John? Like, is this symptomatic of a guy who's an older player and he's just trying to make up for it in some other kind of way?
Usually when they're older and there's safeties, they don't do this. They want to protect themselves. And I saw the hit they were talking about where he hit somebody, a receiver, it wasn't in his head, it was in the neck area, which is still against the rules, and they got him because he's a multiple offender.
Yeah.
It's amazing he's still playing.
Right. He was drafted in 2010. He's been doing it forever. It was Luke Musgrave that he hit, the rookie tight end for the Packers is who the latest hit was on. But 4-game suspension.
14 years.
So hang on a second then. So week 8, no, they play the Broncos in week 13. So the Texans, Kareem will get to come back here and play in Houston again. All right, let's see. Jordan, I've seen a few experts, air quotes, say that the Browns should look at trading for Kirk Cousins. Seems like that'd be kind of a kick in the balls to have to do that after spending all that money on Watson. But what say you?
That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
I forget who I saw. It might have been Dan Orlovsky, actually, suggesting this, saying, hey, we don't know what Deshaun's health is. They've got a great defense. They're a quarterback away, which is hilarious to me that the Browns, who gave Deshaun all that money, are a quarterback away. But he's got familiarity with Stefanski. They were trying to make a case that the Browns ought to do that. You think it's one of the dumbest things you've ever heard?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, Jordan, there you go. There's your answer. Joey in Montrose. Sean, I know you in particular liked Bryce Young coming out of Alabama. Have these first 6 games done anything to change your long-term view on him? Yeah, a little bit. I'll tell you what changed my long-term view on him, John, when I actually saw him at his first practice, and I'm like, wow, he looks even smaller there than he did in the SEC. That's where I started looking at it going, okay, I knew he was small. I didn't know he was that small. So that probably changed it more than anything. There's a decent chance that Bryce Young is a victim of bad coaching right now too. I don't know about Frank. I think Frank Reich might be a little bit overrated, John. That's just my own opinion. But what say you? Has anything that happened in the first 6 weeks changed your long-term view on Bryce Young?
No, and nobody complained about Frank Reich's play calling when he had Andrew Luck, and since Andrew retired, his play calling has not been nearly as well. It's weird the way that works, isn't it? I think they gave up a lot to get him. It's going to be hard for them to improve around him, considering they gave up so much to get him till probably his 3rd year. And I thought one of the meanest but coolest memes when he did his first news conference, somebody had him where his head barely reached the podium. Dude. And I just thought that was terrible, but boy, it was fun.
John, you know what was crazy? The number of people that thought that might be real. That was the crazy part.
They would put him out there like that.
Can you imagine?
Oh, that was great.
It was so funny. We can pick on him for being small. He's a millionaire. Okay, people, before you get all worked up about it. All right, 2 more, John. Liam in College Station. Guys, which Astros have the most soul-searching to do this offseason? Seems like a bunch of guys played way under their 2022 performance or regressed badly in the postseason, or both. Who's got the most soul-searching, in your opinion, to do, John, to get their mind right and start playing good baseball again in 2024?
Framber Valdez. They were talking about extending him before the season. It didn't happen. Don't know if they made him an offer. There was talk he wanted $300 million in a long-term deal. He was their ace, and then they traded for Verlander, and he was not the same after the no-hitter because they're counting so heavily on him. Framber, to me, is number 1, and there's a bunch right behind him.
Yeah, I would put Javier right there with him because the Astros have committed to Javier. They've got him for at least another 4 years at $13-14 million a year. So Framber, you can get out of the Framber. If Framber is an inconsistent starting pitcher, you've got control over him for 2 more years through the arbitration process, which probably won't be as kind to him as he thought it might have been coming into this season because he didn't have a great year this year. So I'll put Javier right there with him. Those 2 guys are keys, even though when McCullers and Garcia come back, they're going to have a plethora of starting pitching. I say that. We thought that coming into this year, and then guys get hurt. Anyways, suffice it to say, I'll put Javier right there with Pena on his own back burner over here, having to get his mind right too. Jeremy
I
Pena.
think all of them deserve another chance. Tucker, I feel the most confident in to bounce back because he was so good all through regular season. He just had a terrible playoff.
Yeah,
and
I don't even count Tucker in that group.
I
Tucker's
don't
going
either.
he's going to be top 3 in the MVP balloting. Like he had a bad couple weeks.
Isn't it amazing when you see a guy like Pena did what he did last year in postseason and then not be able to recreate it again? Is it because they learned how to pitch him and he lost his confidence? He just not anywhere near the same player, but at least it didn't affect him in the field.
Yes, he was still a very, very good defensive player, although not a finalist for the Gold Glove. And oddly enough, Kyle Tucker was, and I think Kyle Tucker was good defensively this year. I thought Kyle Tucker played very lackadaisical at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, last one, John. Pablo J. Who are you all rooting for in the Colts versus Browns game this past Sunday? Who are you rooting for, John, with the Texans sort of slant in mind in this?
Well, of course, you'd think the Browns because you wanted the Colts to lose, but I wanted the Colts because I wanted the Browns to lose, number one, because of Watson. But number two, it would help the Texans' first-round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Colts are going to lose plenty more games this year. I was rooting for the Colts to beat the Browns in that game. Although it is kind of funny that P.J. Walker has now won these 2 games with Watson out. That part's hilarious to me.
And people love an underdog, and they love backup quarterbacks, and he hadn't done much at all. But, man, there's a groundswell up there. Hey, you're winning. Keep him in.
Are there really people wanting to bench Deshaun Watson up there for P.J. Walker?
I think there's a lot of people up there right now because his rating since he's been the starter up there is 81.
Oof.
Which is like 39th.
That's brutal. Yeah, John, it's just so
He's
weird.
been brutal, except one game.
He's not good at football anymore. It's crazy. It's wild. I love it. All right. John, what do you got going on your various platforms?
I have an Astros Game 7 column on sportsradio610.com. I'm going to be writing Texans on Wednesday between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. It'd be great if they were the same division and could play twice a season, but unless they become that extra game, they won't play again for 4 years.
Yeah.
When they play here, and they won't play again in Charlotte for 8 years, and it's going to be fun to watch, even though the players, it'll be important to the players. They're friends. They want to win that game, but the coaches will certainly point out they don't play against each other.
Oh, come on, coaches. Let us have some fun with this, please. Quarterback matchup. Hey, John, before I let you go, did I hear correctly on In the Loop that you're rooting for the Texas Rangers in the World Series?
I'm rooting for the Rangers to beat the Diamondbacks or the Phillies. I think the Phillies will win. I hope the Rangers win. What they accomplished was miraculous, going back to the choking that last game of regular season. I have great respect for them. I don't like a lot of them, but I have great respect for Bruce Bochy, what he's accomplished, and he has done a phenomenal job in the postseason.
John, why do you have to stab the city of Houston right in the heart like that by rooting for the Rangers?
Because I don't look at it like that. I just look at it, team I want to win is the Rangers over whoever in the National League. Then the Astros can say, hey, we lost to the World Series winner.
But we got to deal with all these Ranger fans having hand on us. I know they already beat us. It's bad enough that they beat the Astros in the ALCS and they got to run around with their little fake rings and things like that.
Yep.
No.
Let them have their day. Every dog has one, and then kick their ass next season. I can't wait for spring training.
But this is a dog with fleas and rabies, and it's just got all kinds of just scum on it.
Some of my best friends are Rangers fans, my family, and boy, they're giving me a really hard time, and I just respond with a one-finger salute.
Yeah, it sounds like your one-finger salute is you guys are number one. I'm rooting for you in the World Series.
It's not this finger.
It's that. Oh boy. Okay, right next to it. I got you. All right, good stuff, John. Always enjoy it. We'll do it again on Thursday.
Look forward to it, Sean.
All right, there it is. That is the Houtopia Football Podcast. Again, if you want your mailbag question read, HOU Mailbag at gmail.com. Send them in to our inbox, HOU Mailbag at gmail.com. James Jackson, great job producing. As always, he's the one who gets the podcast out to all of you. Be sure to click the subscribe button. Give us a review wherever it is you get your podcast. It all helps build the audience and build the podcast up. We enjoy doing it for you, and the Texans have given us a lot of good football to enjoy so far this year as well. So for James, for John, I'm Sean. We're out of time. We will see all of you later this week for the next episode, a preview of the Panthers and the Texans on the Houtopia Football Podcast. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.